Welcome, America, to AmendmentOneRadio.com, where your First Amendment rights are still safe to say what's on your mind.
Hey, good afternoon. It's 4:30, and my name is Catherine K. Guns. I've got 15 years of handling firearms and 2 years as a firearms dealer. And then one day, I took a concealed weapons permit class, and then I learned more in that 3.5 hours than I did in all the years that I've played around with firearms. And then I became a firearms instructor. I'm currently a range officer at a really cool gun range in Oldsmar, and I enjoy teaching and learning every day. So this show is brought to you by sponsors and advertisers. On Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m., Mystery Solved with Frank and Judy. Pretty cool people. Also on Thursday from 7:30 to 8:30, they do the music match, and from 8:30 to 9:30, Instant Emotional Health with Frank and Judy. So I think Nolan also from Talkway WAD Radio Network, without him, all of this couldn't be possible. So if you want to become a sponsor or you want to advertise, I actually taped it to the back of the monitor here, and hopefully you guys can see that. What you would do is you'd call in at 727-493-2055 or the number that's posted on there, and you too can host your own show. So this is Firearms Talk on Amendment One Radio, and my guest today is Gerald Markham. Gerald, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Pretty much I do a show called AmendmentOneRadio.com, a lot of politics, kind of like an open-minded view to sit there and get people out of the Democratic and Republican views to where everything's either one or the other. Is more or less set up to where if you've got an open mind and you can figure out what's best for the country, it's not necessarily a Democrat or a Republican, but you can check and see who all else is running for president and just basically see what your politicians have to offer.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool. When does your show air?
6:30, 7:30 on Thursday evenings.
And it's called Voice of America.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So what got you interested into firearms?
I was always kind of partial to kind of like going out and shooting trees, shooting birds, shoot the cat next door, but, blow stuff up.
We kind of is hunting, but not quite hunting on there. Basically, what I wanted to teach was the basic knowledge skills, attitude necessary for owning and using a firearm safely. So today's topics that we're going to cover today is a gun ban list proposed. A lot of people have been asking me this question for quite some time, and I didn't quite want to cover the subject because I don't know how much of the facts on it are actual or what's actually going to happen. So I did some research on the internet today, and I found a lot of info on it. And so there's a gun ban list proposal that I had actually found. We're also going to cover from last week, Class 3 subject, full automatics. Yes, you can own them. And then in the future, I have hopefully I'll get permission from Showtime here. I've asked permission, got on the internet and asked them if I could play some of their stuff too. So hopefully to be continued on that.
Cool.
So there's many reasons to own a pistol. Recreational shooting for Gerald.
Mm-hmm.
Competitive shooting, hunting, protection of self and family, collecting, and the exercise of our constitutional right. And there's many causes for firearms accidents, which they are recorded as incidences. And we've covered this several times on like the first, second, and third episode that I've done. So these incidences are recorded as incidences, and it's usually from ignorance or carelessness. Ignorance, simply having the lack of knowledge of, and carelessness, you have that knowledge, but you simply don't care. So some of the most important safe gun handling rules that should be fully understood, and I'll actually see if you can read the first one there, if you're interested in that, Gerald. What is the first one that is like the most important thing?
So pretty much always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction.
Absolutely.
And then so that means always away from you and not at you, right. Or your neighbor or the cat,
You never want to stick anything in front of that muzzle that you're not willing to destroy.
That's a fact.
So, and then the second one is to keep the finger off the trigger. And I've experienced this a couple of times with students and with people that I've qualified with. That's so important to create that muscle memory that you don't put that finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Because incidences like when you go to holster, if your finger's on the trigger, what happens? Bang.
Yep.
Not a good experience. So always keep your finger off the trigger, and then always keep the gun unloaded until you're ready to use it. And a lot of people ask me, well, if you're carrying it on you, does it have to be unloaded? Well, come on, think about that for a second. Are you going to tell the bad guy to wait, Mr. Bad Guy, while I load my gun? No, that just means if you're not around your firearm, then keep it unloaded. But if you're in possession and you're carrying concealed, and absolutely, it's loaded. And then always know what's beyond your target. So those are like the most fundamental things that I teach every time I teach a class. Those are the important things to me. So we're going to cover our first subject, which is firearms control politics. I found this clip on the internet, and this is what I want to play for you guys so that you can see what everybody's been talking about. So yeah, I just cued my friend Nolan in there, and he's going to drop it in. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
And go.
Yeah, it's in. So. Oh, well, he's chasing it around. There we go.
Look.
Number 3, disarming the American people. Obama operatives in the Congress have introduced more than 10 bills that would end the Second Amendment as we know it. H.R. 1022 would allow the new Attorney General Eric Holder the dictatorial power to ban any gun he wishes at will. In 2008, before the Supreme Court, in the D.C. gun ban case, District of Columbia versus Heller, Holder argued for the complete disarmament of the American people and that only the military should own firearms. H.R. 257 would ban all youth shooting sports, including YMCA and Youth Olympic shooting clubs. H.R. 45 would force all gun owners to undergo federal psychological screening, registration, and testing to keep their firearms. White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel has proposed the extrajudicial banning of any American on the fraudulent no-fly list from owning any firearm.
That is, if you are on the no-fly list because you are known as maybe a possible terrorist, you cannot buy a handgun in America.
Over 25,000 Americans are added each month to the no-fly list, which numbers over 1 million people who have not been charged or convicted of any crime.
It's a case of mistaken identity for a 5-year-old boy from Normandy Park. He had trouble boarding a plane because someone with his same name is wanted by the federal government. King 5's Mimi Jung is live at SeaTac Airport to explain. Mimi.
Lori, it's hard to believe that a 5-year-old could be considered a threat, but that's exactly what happened here at SeaTac last week when Matthew Gardner showed up for a flight to LAX. As 5-year-olds go, Matthew Gardner is about as harmless as you can get. But when he and his mom checked in for their flight at SeaTac last week, Matthew was considered the criminal.
If you're on that no-fly list, your access to the right to bear arms is canceled because you're not part of the American family. You don't deserve that right. There is no right for you if you're on that terrorist list.
And even though this Matthew Gardner is only in kindergarten, TSA workers still conducted a full-blown search.
We can look back to Bolshevik Russia. We can see the takeover by the Bolsheviks talking about the people's revolution, talking about the positive change. And Lenin came in and then Stalin. The fact is that over 40 million Russians between 1925 and 1940, good Russian, people who were Christians, people who had their own businesses, people who were educated, they were exterminated because they had their own business, because they were educated, because they believed in God's law. We can look over at Germany. Germany was in a very, very terrible economic situation, and this very charismatic leader called Adolf Hitler comes in. He makes the roads good, and he promises a better life for the people. And within 10 years, you see a completely nationalized, centralized, dictatorial situation where millions and millions of people were exterminated. And then we can go to Maoist China. Mao came in, he promised change, he promised a better life, And within 5 years, 60 million Chinese were exterminated. They don't teach that. They don't teach that in the schools these days. And it wasn't that long ago. And I pray to God that this will not happen in the United States. And the way it won't happen is if you and your friends and all of us together take action to say no. This country is too precious. It's too wonderful. It's too good of a place to lay down as a victim.
I'd have to say those are some pretty powerful words there. So there was some commentary underneath that, too, that I wanted to read to you. But first, before we get to that, I wanted to hear what you got to say about that.
Actually, it's pretty interesting. I mean, because I know that there has been quite a few people that's approached the UN here lately in the past 6 to 8 months as far as political-wise. And, it's just like unbelievable. And to sit there and see that, what else that they're trying to put through. And it's just, the American people, they're not aware of what's going on because all this stuff is kind of like in the shadows of the political realm of things. So
there's actually a few people that know because really this is what created the firearms the craze where everybody's buying up as many firearms as they can and the ammunition they can. Yeah. Some of the things that were listed underneath that little strip there that I thought was interesting, so I wanted to read it out. It says, remember, the first step in establishing dictatorship is to disarm the citizens. So a ban list was proposed, slipping below the radar under the short-term memory cap. The Democrats have already leaked a gun ban list under the Bush administration when they knew full well that it had no chance of passage. This is the H.R. 1022, 110th Congress. It serves as the framework for the new list of the Brady's plan to introduce shortly. There is an outline of the Brady's current plan targets of opportunity. This is horrific. They're going to, after the courts, regulatory agencies, firearms dealers, and statutes in all effort to restrict we the people. They've made little mention of criminals. Now more than ever, the attention to the entire Bill of Rights is critical. Gun bans will impact our freedoms under search, seizure, and due process, confiscation, property, states' rights, free speech, the right to assemble, and more, in addition to the Second Amendment right. Democrats have currently a gun ban list proposal. The final list will be worse. I'm not going to say on either side is good. It's just what was listed under there. But I've read some bad things about our other parties as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, both parties, it's just, we're in a situation where nobody pays attention to everything in general. It's just we've been brought up to be, okay, you're either Democrat or you're Republican. Mm-hmm. And the problem of it is most people don't realize that both of these people do work together behind closed doors, and it's not to the American people's benefit.
Mm-hmm. So some of those actual firearms that could be banned, and it is quite a list. I was quite shocked when I read it. So we're just going to read on through it. The first one it says is rifles or copies or duplicates. So these things would be such as an M1 carbine, Sturm Ruger's Mini 14, AR-15s like the Bushmaster XM15, Armalite's M15, an AR-10, the Thompson 1927, the Thompson M1, an AK, AKM, AKS, AK-47, AK-74, ARM, MAC-90, NHM-90, NHM-91, SA-85, SA-93, Bepper, Olympic Arms, PCR, AR-70, Calico, Liberty, Dragunov, one of my favorites, a Dragunov, Dragunov SVD Sniper Rifle or Dragunov SVU, Fabergé Nationale, those are FNs. High Point, I mean, come on, the High Point 20 carbine. I had a High Point 9mm. Great, fun firearm to shoot. HK91, HK93, HK94, HK PGS1, Thompson, the 1927 Commando, Kel-Tec sub-rifles, one of the hardest rifles to get right now because it's in such high demand, and they're going to propose to ban it. Sega, that's those 12 gauges out there, guys, those really cool ones. SAR 8s, SAR 4800s, SKS with detachable magazines. We had touched on this subject a couple of times. Yes, guys, they're looking to ban anything with a detachable magazine. So what does that leave left? Not very much.
Yeah, slingshot.
Yeah, right. SLG 95, SL 95 or 96, Steyr AUGs, Taver Uzis, Galley or Easy Uzi Sporter, Galley Sporter, or I guess that's pronounced Galil. My pronunciation was wrong on that. Galil sniper rifle and Galette's pistols, or copies or duplicates of that. The Calico M110s, MAC 10, MAC 11, or MPA 3, Olympic Arms OA, Tech 9s. I really like the poster of the Tech 9. Did you ever see that? It was in the 80s, the girls with the guns.
Yeah, those are always pretty neat. The girls. I don't know about the guns, but...
No, actually, I hate to knock on them a little bit. That's the reason why they stayed in the 80s.
Yeah.
The Tech DC-9, Tech 22 Scorpion, or the AB-10 or Uzi. I can't believe it. We're already on the third page of firearms. Can you believe that? Shotguns or copies or duplicates of the Armscore 30 BG, SBAS 12 or Law 12, Striker 12, or Street Sweeper. Catch-all category for anything missed or new designs, just in case something new came up and they hadn't caught it yet. A semi-automatic rifle that accepts a detachable magazine and has a folding or telescoping stock. So that's the stocks that you can fold to the top, to the side, or that they extend out with 6 positions.
Yeah.
Wow, that doesn't leave much left. That means just the basic fixed stock. Anything with a threaded barrel. That goes those suppressors that everybody likes to obtain. And yes, you can own a suppressor with a $200 tax stamp and about 6 to 12 month waiting time with our government.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to eliminate it the other way by let's not get a threaded barrel. A pistol grip with such includes anything that can serve as a grip, see below. Oh, gee, anything with a pistol grip. Well, then that knocks out pistols, doesn't it? There's not much left.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, a forward grip or a barrel shroud, any semi-automatic rifle with a fixed magazine that can accept more than 10 rounds, except tubular magazines, 22 rimfire rifles, a semi-automatic pistol that has the ability to accept a detachable magazine, and it has a second pistol grip, a threaded barrel, a barrel shroud, or can accept any detachable magazine outside the pistol grip, and a semi-automatic pistol with a fixed magazine that can accept more than 10 rounds.
That pretty much covers all your guns.
Just about. The only thing we got left is revolvers now.
That's coming.
Yeah, right. It's probably in there. Semi-automatic shotgun with a folding or telescoping scope or stock. I'm sorry, a folding or telescoping stock. A pistol grip. See the definitions below. Let's see. Oh, they got it. Okay, so the ability to accept a detachable magazine or a fixed magazine capacity of more than 5 rounds, and a shotgun with a revolving cylinder. Oh dear.
There you go.
So, frames and receivers for the above are included along with conversion kits. They've thought of everything, guys. Conversion kits. So the Attorney General gets a cartel blanche to ban guns at will under the proposal. The U.S. Attorney General can add any semi-automatic rifle or shotgun originally designed for military or law enforcement use, or a firearm based on the design, such a firearm that is not particularly suitable for sporting purposes or demand by the Attorney General.
That's every firearm.
Yeah, it is. So,
yeah, because every firearm basically pretty much started out in some kind of a law enforcement situation. So, yeah, so basically they're giving the right to the Attorney General to sit there and say, okay, hey, this is all law enforcement. There's nothing that hasn't been basically tested in some sort of law enforcement, whether it's military or, state law enforcement.
Continuing on there, what I want to pull is our actual Second Amendment rights, and let's see if I can find it really quick. See under file here. I want to add a new window. Can you walk me through that, or is it too soon? Open recent. All right, cool. He's going to open a new window for me. Cool, because I wanted to actually clarify what exactly that Second Amendment right actually means. Cool. He's going to pop that up, and then we're just going to. Well, he's pretty quick. He's pulling it up. Second Amendment. I want to be able to read that word for word and help people out here with this. Okay, the Second Amendment. No, that's Holy snackies. That's a lot going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Can we find anything easier? I guess not. As soon as I'm able to pull that up, I'll do the breakdown on that. Basically, the breakdown is one part is militia, and then one part is for the people. And a lot of people get that mixed up between the two. They think it's all about militia, and so that they want to take our rights away, but they fail to talk about the meaning for the people. So the meaning of the right of the people. Nowhere else in the Constitution does the right attributed to the people refer to anything other than the individual right, which is more. He switched it on me. That little stinker, I was right there, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you go back?
Let's see. Amendment 2.
Yeah,
there we go.
all right. So, all right. That's funny. I'm not going to. Yeah. All right. Well, screw that. All right, so National Firearms Act. We're going to go into our subjects that we had last week, which is about Class 3 firearms, where Mitt Romney actually misspoke and said that Class 3 firearms are illegal.
Yep.
Yeah, full
I caught that. That's pretty good.
Oh, you brought it back to that? Did you feel bad for me, Nolan? That's funny. I don't even know where I was at with that, so it's okay. All right, well, I could start and read that over, and then we'll touch back into the Class 3. The meaning and the right of the people. Nowhere else in the Constitution does have right attributed to the people refer to anything other than the individual right. What is more than allows 6 other provisions in the Constitution that mention the people. The term unambiguously refers to the members of the political community, not an unspecified subset. So the contrast marked where the phrase is the militia is prefatory clause. As well as described below. The militia in colonial America consist of subset of the people, and those who were male or able-bodied within a certain age range, reading the Second Amendment as protected only the right to keep and bear arms, and the organized militia therefore poorly with the operative clause description of the holder of that right as the people. Well, that's where a lot of people are saying, oh, then it's only the militia. But that's not true. It's also for the people.
Yeah, because back then the people were actually the militia.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, but it's divided in two, and hopefully if I can get that one Showtime show, that'll help break that down piece by piece to be able to, so that one's actually to be continued too. So now we're going to go into Class 3, where I was learning along with you guys last week, and so let me bring everybody up to speed what we were doing last week, and it was the types of firearms that must be registered in the National Firearms Registration and transferred, recorded, and defined as NFA and 27 CFR. This is basically what are Class 3 firearms, okay?
Guns that shoot really fast.
Yeah.
3 times faster than the other guys.
Yeah. More expensive, too. You just watch it go 10, 20, 30, 40, we're broke.
Mm-hmm.
But this, when people collect Class 3 firearms, full automatics, or even other things like short barrel rifles or suppressors, it's mainly for the sport of it. Because generally, the bad guys really can't afford it. And if they acquire it, they've acquired it illegally. And since when did you ever hear a bad guy go, gee, that's illegal, I better not do that?
Yeah, really.
So all they're doing is regulating the good guys here. But there are a few of us that are able to do so, and then we have a long 6-month to a year process of waiting to acquire these. So some of the things under that list would be machine guns, the frame of a receiver or parts of a machine gun, any combination of the parts designed intended for the use of converting weapons into machine guns, any part designed or intended solely and exclusively for converting a weapon into a machine gun, any combination of parts which a machine gun can be assembled if the parts are in the possession under the control of a person, silencers, and any part designed or intended for fabricating a silencer, short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, destructive devices, and any other weapons. For example, of destructive devices, that would be the Molotov cocktails.
Pipe bomb.
Right? Anti-tank guns over the caliber of 50 and mortars.
And actually, the funny thing about it is, even your old fireworks, like your M50s, so in the old so-called cherry bombs and stuff, that would actually fall under that category as well.
Yeah. A few examples of any other weapons would be the H&R handiguns. Ithaca Auto burglar guns, cane guns, any gadget-type firearms, or pen guns, which are fire projectile by the action of an explosive.
Yeah,
So
that's your James Bond.
Yeah, that's your James Bond
Like,
stuff.
yeah, check out my watch. Boom, shot you in the eyeball. You know.
So how can an individual legally acquire NFA firearms? Basically, there are two ways an individual who is not prohibited from federal, state, or local law receiving or possessing firearms that may legally acquire NFA firearms. But watch out for that if you end up on that no-fly list. That would probably ban you from it, too.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, a 5-year-old. Can you believe that?
Yeah, it's like, what's he going to do? Whip out a Thompson machine gun out of his toy bag and say, okay, here, I'm here to collect all your money. Give me your money.
Yeah.
I'm going to rob you.
5 years old. Jeez. All right. By transfer and approval, so basically there are two ways to do this. By transfer after approval by the ATF, a registered weapon from the lawful owner residing in the same state as the transferee, or by obtaining a prior approval from ATF to make the NFA firearms. So basically this question is how does an individual obtain authorization to make an NFA firearm? This is the guys like on the TV shows that make those really cool full automatics or suppressed firearms, and they have to obtain special licensing too. So prior to making a firearm, the individual must submit an ATF Form 1 form. The application to make this and register a firearm to the Bureau of ATF or at the NFA branch and receive approval, the applicant must follow the procedures described in the question. So what are the required transferred procedures of an individual who is not qualified as a manufacturer, importer, or dealer of NFA firearms? So this would be concerning concerning photographs, fingerprints, and certifications from the applicant, and must forward the original duplicate of the form along with a check or money order for $200 made payable to the Bureau of ATF, National Firearms Act branch, and then they give the address. And if the application is approved, the original of the form of the canceled stamp affixed as showing approval will be returned to the applicant. And the applicant, if the applicant is denied, and the tax will be refunded. They even put that in black and white that they would refund you if you got denied. But they'll send you a tax stamp. You pay them $200. You wait the 6 to almost a year process. They'll send you a tax stamp, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I wonder what it would take to sit there and get you not approved.
The no-fly zone.
Yeah, really, either that or it's like, okay, I'm a top-grade felon here, and I've got all these warrants out for my arrest, but I'm going to apply for a suppressor, you know?
Yeah, well, no, they're not going to do it that way, you know? This is just a regulation on the good guys. So applications to make firearms will not be approved if the federal, state, or local law prohibits possession of the firearm. So another catch there that they could slip in.
Yeah.
So are there parts which could convert a firearm into an NFA firearm subject to registration? So these are examples of an M2 conversion kit. Any parts designed and intended solely and exclusively to convert a weapon into a machine gun. So these types of firearms that must be registered in the National Firearms Registry, registered in and transfer record are denied in the NFA and 27 CFR. What are some of the examples for? Okay, so they're going to list out some of the examples.
I mean, because I know that, back in high school and stuff, way back when, I know that they used to sit there and talk about you could get a MAC-10 and flip a pin in it that used to go from semi-automatic to fully automatic. So that and a couple other ones, I want to say, I think a Tech-9.
So you're talking about the selector switches. Well, if they were pre-86, you certainly could own them. And then if it was any date after that, then you would have to apply for these certain licensures and have some certain licensures, set in place to acquire them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do believe they do exist. I've seen. I remember years and years ago. Again, I think it was 1999, we had an L1A1 that had the selector switch on it, although it was not active because at that time I didn't even know you could own a full automatic.
Yeah.
If we'd applied for the proper paperwork and made that selector switch, active, and of course it needed a few other parts to make it work, but it could have been done. So pretty neat. So what law enforcement officials, certifications, and application transfer or make an NFA weapon are acceptable to ATF? So this basically is asking, what do you got to do? As provided in the regulation, certifications of the local chief or police, sheriff, or the county, the head of state or police, or a state of local district attorney or prosecutor are acceptable. The regulation also provided that the certifications or other officials are appropriate and found in a particular case to be acceptable to the director. Examples of these officials who have been accepted in specific situations include state attorneys, general, and the judges of state courts having authority and conduct jury trials in these felony cases. So I guess they can give you approvals on those things. Is the chief of law enforcement officer required to sign on the law enforcement certification on an ATF Form 1 or an AFT Form 4? Actually, no. The law enforcement officers can be compelled to sign the law enforcement certification under federal state law. However, ATF will not approve the application to make or transfer firearms in ATF Forms 1 or 4 unless the law enforcement certification is compiled by acceptable law enforcement officials who have signed certification in the space indicated on the form. So basically, you would have to go under what law enforcement official certifications on this application to transfer to make an NFA weapon are acceptable to ATF. So you have to click there to see for more information. So what are your thoughts on all of this so far?
Definitely, like, it's almost like you got to jump through hoops, like unbelievable, especially, everything from the bans that they're trying to do to the different laws and stuff. And it's just like, there's no privacy to it. I mean, because look at all the people that you got to go through to be able to get your, application accepted.
Yeah, it kind of seems almost really long and boring in a sense to do all of this process. But I did want to make sure that people knew that you were able to do it out there. But I'll be glad when we get through this. And it's like almost 21 pages of how to acquire a Class 3 firearm. So.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, shoot, the only other route you can do is, it's terrible to say, you can go to your local drug dealer because he's probably got an armament better than everybody else.
Yeah, but then
and you ain't got to register with nobody. It's like, here, take your $50, you got an AK-47.
And then you know what happens with that RICO Act. You lose everything. And anything that's touched or acquired with your wife, your children, your house, your car, your land, everything.
Sometimes it could be a good thing if you lose your wife, It's like, hey, here, come take my gun.
No.
I'll give you the gun. You can
take
the wife.
You too. Did you forget that part?
Well, sometimes it's a vacation.
They'll give you a new wife.
Yeah, but that may not work.
Yeah. All right, so back to a few more Q&A questions. Trying not to bore you guys out there, but I know there's so many people that have asked me, how do you do this? And that's why I've attempted to learn along with you. So another Q&A question would be, is if the chief of law enforcement official whose jurisdiction includes proposed transferees' residence refuses to sign the law enforcement certification, will the signature of an official in another jurisdiction be acceptable? Actually, no. So for the list of acceptable chief law enforcement officers, you'd have to click to what law enforcement official certifications on application to transfer to make NFA weapons acceptable by ATF. So it's just a pretty much, well, no, you can't go to another.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like you're stepping over somebody's head. It's like your mom and dad routine.
Yeah.
Mom won't let me go get a cookie. Hey, Pop, let me have a cookie.
Yeah, so there are some things that you have to do.
Yeah.
So, does the registered owner of a destructive device, I just love that word, destructive device. Okay, so does the registered owner of a destructive device, machine gun, short-barreled shotgun, short-barreled rifle, need authorization to lawfully transport such items interstate? That's actually a good question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was going to say definitely, probably yes.
All right, awesome. So you nailed that one. It is yes, unless the owner is a qualified dealer, manufacturer, or importer, or a licensed collector transporting only curios or relics. Remember, because we talked about that box of melted metal Christmas tree ornament.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to the approval must be obtained, even if the move is temporary. So approval is requested by either submitting the letter containing the necessary information or by submitting an ATF Form 5320.20 at the Bureau of ATF NFA branch. Possessions of these firearms must comply with all state and local laws. So whatever state you go to, you also need to comply with what they're saying.
Yeah, because I mean, that's almost like a concealed weapon. Just because you got it and it's through the federal, the FBI and stuff, they're still not accepted in certain states.
Absolutely. It's just like with Florida concealed weapons permit. The last time I checked, we were good with 35 other states.
Mm-hmm.
But each state has a different law. Like in the state of Florida is stand your ground. I'm sure everybody's familiar with stand your ground by now.
Yeah, Mr. Zimmerman, thank you for letting everybody know.
Yeah. And then, like in the state of Georgia, you have the duty to retreat, which means you do have to try to get away first before anything happens. So,
Of course, when he comes at you with one of those short-barreled shotguns with a pistol grip, like a street sweeper or something like that, running ain't gonna do you too good. So
I wonder if seeking cover qualifies as trying to get away, and then you stop the threat.
Yeah, because you definitely need to seek some kind of cover.
Yeah, you know what the things, the few people that you need to have in your life. Number one, a great lawyer. Number two, a great car mechanic and a gunsmith, and there's a few other ones on my list. But
you have to get that guy Q from 007. Build your guns inside your car.
Yeah, right.
It's like, yeah, I can fix this. Yeah, let me
Good
zip out the watch.
morning.
Shoot him with the 50 caliber.
Squirt the oil out the bag. Oh, wow. So back to those Q&A questions again. If an individual is changing his or state of residence and the individual application to transfer the NFA firearm cannot be approved because of prohibition in the new state, what options does the lawful possessor have? NFA firearms may be left in a safe deposit box in his or her former state of residence. Also, the firearm could be left and stored in a former state of residence at the house of a friend or relative in a locked room or container to which only the registered owner has a key. The friend or the relative should also be supplied with a copy of the registration forms and a letter from the owner authorizing the storage of the firearm at that location. That's something I really didn't know. That's very interesting.
Yeah, really dumb, too, because it's like, hey, well, you're in Georgia and somebody breaking in your house. You got to run to Florida to get your guns.
Right? And you really better trust your friends.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, they'll go sell your guns, collect the money, and say, oh, somebody stole them. The next thing you know, you got FBI or somebody looking at you and knocking at your door.
Oh, God, what a mess that would be. So the firearms must also be transferred under the procedures referred to. What are the required transferred procedures for an individual who is not qualified as a manufacturer, importer, or dealer or NFA firearms? So, or abandoned to ATF. That's a button we click on there. So many transfers. May a transfer submit an application to transfer an NFA firearm prior to the date on which the transferor receives the weapon?
Well, definitely no.
Yeah, that's just a flat out no. So
there's even no reason for that. They just tell you no.
Yeah, it just says no. But when you think about the question there, it says, may a transfer submit an application to a transfer or NFA firearm prior to the date on which the transferor receives the weapon? Yeah, they don't want you doing anything without the paperwork first. Okay, so if a person has a pistol or an attachable shoulder stock, does this constitute as possession of an NFA firearm? Well, yes, unless the barrel of the pistol is at least 16 inches in length. And that is so important because we actually, years ago, ran across this problem where a guy had been sold a short-barreled rifle, but he thought it was a pistol, came into the store, tried to sell it to us, and ironically, for some reason or another, I took a close look at it and realized that it wasn't a pistol. It was a rifle. And I measured the barrel, and I quietly pointed it out to the store owner, who said, you're going to have to take this gun back from whoever you bought it from, because it is a Class 3 firearm. So that guy was like shaking in his boots over that one. So that one actually slipped through the cracks. I've seen it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad story of the guy's life. He came up short.
Yeah, right. It scared him, but hopefully he's not sitting in jail and lost everything over it. I think he probably, as bad as it scared him, hopefully he went and did the right things.
Yeah, over a couple of inches.
Yeah, right. So yes, unless the barrel of the pistol is at least 16 inches in length, and the overall length of the firearm with the stock attached is at least 26 inches. However, the certain stocked handguns, such as the original semi-automatic Mauser broom handles or Lugers, have been removed from the purview of the NFA collector items. Kind of like, let me explain where this kind of started. For me, anyways. You remember the GSG 22 pistols? They look like the HKs. Since then, HK kind of got mad at them and said, you're not allowed to produce this anymore. But there were two versions of it. You could get the pistol and the rifle. And actually, more people desired the rifle version of it because it looked like the HK. So what people were wanting to try to do was modify the pistol into a rifle. But the minute you put a stock on that turns that into an SBR. Yeah. And the minute that you take a pistol and try to put a forearm grip on it, that turns it into a rifle. And that would be an SBR because it's short. Does that make sense? Yeah. So
that's like I've seen where people have taken the old 410 double barrel shotguns, and they've went in there and they've cut them down to about like 6 or 8 inch barrels, and then what they do is they put like a pistol grip on them. And
well, the pistol grip is not what changes that shotgun into a Class 3 firearm. What changes it is the length of the barrel. Absolutely, which should be 18 inches in length. So anything less than 18 on a shotgun or a rifle is a Class 3 firearm, which is a short barrel rifle.
What if you got a crooked cut? It's 1/8 of an inch off. You got half a gun that's Class 3 and the other half is, you know. I actually have one, but I ain't gonna say what it is.
Well, I wouldn't. Yeah, you know, that's up to debate with a measuring tape. Okay. Does the owner of a registered NFA firearm have to have any other evidence to show if it is registered lawfully to him or her? Well, yes. In fact, I do it all the time when people come into the gun store with a Class 3 firearm. Yes, I do request to see their Tax 3 tax stamps and their ID to verify that it is them that own it. So, yes, the approved application received from an ATF serves as evidence of registration of the NFA firearm in the owner's name. And this document must be kept available for inspection by ATF officers, and it is suggested that a photocopy of the approved application be carried by the owner when the weapon is being transported.
I wonder if you can consider that a concealed weapon.
If you had it on or about yourself, remember the definitions of concealed carry. It's in a manner what is on or about yourself. If it's carried in a case outside of your body, then that's considered a carrying case. But if it's on or about you, touching your body, then that would be a concealed weapon. Yes.
Yeah, get you a nice little like 45 or something. Put a silencer on it. You know, of course, it would take you like heck of an arm reach to sit there and pull this thing up, you know.
I would cross draw it. We were talking about that yesterday. That is so funny. A guy had gotten the pleasure of his first .22 suppressor. He was so excited. And we were talking about how he was going to be able to conceal carry that. It's a .22. I forgot what firearm he's attaching it to, but I want to say it was a Glock, not the 26. Just for a tidbit of note there, too, the Glock 26 is too small for a suppressor. It doesn't create or generate enough gas pressure or blowback. Because the suppressor kind of absorbs all of that. And also, when you shoot a suppressor, you should always use subsonic ammunition. And subsonic, if you break it down, means it moves slower, okay? But so he didn't use a Glock 26, and so the next one up from that is the Glock 19. That's what it was. So he's got a .22 suppressor for his Glock 19, and he's trying to figure out how to suppress it. We were talking about maybe a shoulder rig and you know, like a little tip up. And are you happy to see me?
Like, yes.
We're going to put on the end of the suppressor, smile when you see flash. Wow. Okay. So what is the status of an unloaded or dummy grenade? We were talking about this on our second show, and they actually have an answer for this. Because remember we were joking about the dummy grenades. Well, now I'm curious to find out what they're going to say on this. So what is the status of an unloaded or dummy grenades? The artillery shell casings or similar devices? Unloaded or dummy grenades, artillery shell casings, and similar devices which are cut or drilled into in an ATF approved manner so that they can be used as an ammunition components or destructive devices that are not considered NFA weapons. So there's your answer.
Yeah, that just goes to show you those old grenade things where pick a number and, you know, you pull the pin for the last number. You know, it's an actual grenade, but they drill it out.
According to ATF standards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
probably
can see
not according to their standards, but
they're looking for you to take the priming pin out and a few of the things that might ignite.
Yes, I'm sure there's still somebody out there trying to fill them back up with some kind of an explosive.
Yeah, I mean, bad guys, they never quit, do they?
No, we don't. I mean, they don't.
Wait, what? We? Who are you? I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that.
See, nah, my two favorite holidays are actually Halloween and 4th of July.
Yeah?
Yeah, because then you can sit around there and be anybody you want to be for Halloween. So then 4th of July, you either get to blow something up or, you know, watch other people blow stuff up.
Pretty cool. Look at the pretty lights. All right. So are muzzle-loading cannons classified as a destructive device? Wow. I didn't know this one. So generally, no. Muzzle-loading cannons not capable of firing a fixed ammunition or manufactured before 1898, and replicas, therefore, are antiques and not subject to the provisions of either GCA or NFA. So GCA stands for Gun Control Act, and NFA is National Firearms Act.
So cool. I can go get me an old cannon. I can put me a lead ball in it, and I can shoot through buildings, and it's considered, nothing.
Yeah, as long as it's a muzzle-loading cannon.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty destructive when you think about it.
Yeah, really. Put you 5 pounds of powder in it.
Let me read that again. They're not considered
there.
destructive devices? No, they're not. So, wow.
Well, what's funny is the fact that when I was in like the Gasparilla Parade and with the crews and stuff, when you do the actual Gasparilla Parade itself, Ye Mystic Crew has the only actual cannons that they use to fire. They do it's a 2 foot, 3 foot long cannon that they use to fire, as they're going down the parade route. Not to mention that they do the guns to where they have like all blanks and stuff. But each and every one of those people that has that stuff, they all have to be permitted for their guns and the actual cannon itself.
Wow.
Yeah, because if they don't have it, they can't shoot it.
Yeah.
So, it's the craziest thing, but,
Yeah, well, our government has tried to control every aspect of it and confuse the general people. That's why with that Second Amendment statement, it is two separate things. It's militia, but it also is for the people, too, for the right to bear arms.
Well, that's the problem with the attorneys of today. They can sit there and take militia, and then it's just like, well, we're going to turn it around and make it a military. But in actuality, the militia represented the people back in the George Washington days. So.
Wow. So what is let me see. Oh, that's a good question. Are grenade and rocket launcher attachments destructive devices?
Nah, not at all. They're just there for looks.
Yeah, all right. Well, here's the answer to that. Grenade and rocket launcher attachments for use on military type rifles, such as like AR-15s, generally do not come with the definition of a destructive device. However, the grenades and rockets used inside these devices generally within that definition. So you can have it for looks, but it cannot function technically, or it can function, but not with the grenades and what they define as a Class 3.
Yeah, so in other words, you just got to get a lame old smoke grenade launcher, and that's it.
Yeah, but it sure looks cool.
It does. I mean, you're sitting there looking at a barrel the size of your finger, and compared to one that's like 2 inches, like a piece of pipe, and
honestly, I kind of have to agree with this. I kind of flip-flop. Yes, I do believe 100% in our gun rights, but how many people out there in civilian life really need a rocket launcher or a grenade launcher?
I do.
Yeah. Okay. We go out, make sure there's a good, 2,000 yards or more.
Yeah,
let's go have some fun, blow up some old cars.
Yeah, really, because I mean, it's just like, why do people need Corvettes?
Yeah, all right. So.
Really, they could be driving a Volkswagen, but it's just because of the fact that, they just ain't got nothing better to do with their time.
Yeah, well, it is all right, isn't it? So what is a conversion kit? A conversion kit is any part of combination of parts designed or intended for the use of converting a weapon into a machine gun. A conversion kit is a manufactured gun for the purposes of the NFA. And then they say click on this button to see additional information. So if you want to do the conversion kit, you definitely have to apply for the proper paperwork to do so. So the terms of a firearm silencer and a firearm muffler mean a device for silencing, muffling, or diminishing the report of a portable firearm, including any combination of parts designed or redesigned or intended for the use of in assembling or fabricating a firearm silencer or firearm muffler, and any part intended only for the use of such assembly or fabrication. So numerous paintball and airgun silencers tested by ATF Firearms Technology Branch has been determined to be, by natural of their design and function, firearm silencers. Because silencers are NFA weapons, an individual wishing to manufacture or transfer such silencer must receive prior approval from ATF to pay that required tax. Wow, so even for paintball guns and air guns, because they function as such, and that's something.
That's crazy.
I didn't know that. I just learned something new.
Well, I guess old Matt Damon didn't have his tax stamp or any of that stuff when he's using that Coke bottle with that .22 out there shooting that guy in the movie there.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, maybe he did. Hopefully they read that.
Yeah.
And we didn't see any news where he was sitting in jail or
Well, you don't
crap.
see a part 2 in that, so he's probably still in jail for it.
Yeah, man, did we just tell on him? So if you have any further questions to the classification of paintball or air gun silencers, please send a written request to ATF Firearms Technology Branch. So they want you to tell on them. So, hi, my name is, and I have this.
Well, it's kind of funny, even about the tattling on them and stuff. I think we're going to be in a time and frame that we're going to see the day and age that the government is going to set up something to the effect of, if your neighbor has a gun and if you turn him in, you'll get something. You'll get some kind of a reward or some kind of monument, as far as, money-wise or something like that. And I think when it comes down and it really gets dirty where they really do sit there and start taking our guns away from us and stuff, I think that's when you'll see it'll happen.
Yeah, well, they're going to do it subtly if they choose to do it. I try to not touch on this subject, but it is important, and it does get asked every day. They're going to do it subtly. And just like what they slipped in there with the, they're going to count you as a terrorist on the airlines and do not fly zone, and then you can't own a gun. Or if you get into a domestic violence situation, and yes, I do believe that if you end up in a domestic violence situation, if it's bad enough, yes, that guy should, or girl, or whoever is the aggressor, deserves to not have their firearms. But they didn't clearly define that. And it happened to my twin brother, whom I love very much. She basically solved this whole problem in court, and she won. And she did it with 3 words: he choked me. Even though he tried to present the evidence of, look at my time card, there's no way I couldn't possibly have been there. He had witnesses that said she rubbed her neck. Look, that's why it was red. Even the cops weren't so sure about, they were saying, she's not quite mentally stable.
Yeah.
But he lost his gun rights over it. And that's a domestic violence charge. And when you get one of those, forget it. You can't have guns. You can't even be around a firearm. So they're going to do it that way, subtly, by taking a piece here and a piece there that actually makes sense. Yes, in a domestic violence situation, if it's violent enough, yeah, you should not have your guns. But if it's done on hearsay and it's over, and that's what they did with this 5-year-old kid, come on. If you would just use your brains for a second, the kid is not a terrorist. He's 5 years old.
Yeah. Well, I guess that means you're going to have to try OJ style, whip out the knife.
Yeah. What? So I don't know exactly what direction you were going in with that one, but
so yeah, because if guns sit there and get you in trouble, it's like, hey, they take all of our guns away, everybody's going to be stabbing each other.
Yeah, right. And then they're going to ban that.
Yeah.
And they're going to ban, large
Forks.
objects and forks and pointy objects and then maybe cars, because you can't run them over.
Yeah, I tell you.
So, wow. So which agency collects the special occupational tax for persons who wish to import, manufacture, or deal with National Firearms Act firearms? So which agencies collect this? ATF collects a special tax. ATF specifically of the NFA branch assumes the responsibility for the collection of special tax imposed on the NFA importers, manufacturers, and dealers during tax year. Questions should be directed to NFA branch. And then, let me see. The Tax and Trade Bureau of the Department of Treasury remains responsible for administrating the collection of special tax relating to the alcohol industry. So this is ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
That's pretty interesting, that they're actually in with the alcohol. Like, okay, alcohol and guns don't mix in the first place, but yet they're all together.
Right? I always teach my students that, here's a funny thing, and I've always wondered, why do they do it? At these gun shows, and I'm not going to list who specifically does it, but there's a few people out there that have these gun shows.
No.
You can drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got beer and guns going. And I teach this adamantly when I'm teaching that the two do not mix. I mean...
No, because I still got friends, you'd think after high school they'd grow out of it, and it's just like, yeah, you can go out there and get them a beer or something, and the next thing you know, these clowns are 6 foot tall, bulletproof, and they're ready to take on the world, and it's just like, yeah, I'll get my gun. That's the first stupid thing that comes out of their mouth, and it's just like, really, you're going to get drunk, go get your gun and do what? Shoot your cat, shoot your neighbor, shoot your wife,
Yeah.
It's just like, what total idiots.
Yeah, so see what it falls under, and that was one of the other the president's slip up is guns kill people. No, it's not the guns.
Yep.
It's the person behind the gun, and
Yep.
usually it's something stupid that causes that. And alcohol would definitely be one on the top 10 list.
That's a fact.
Yeah, it also, we were talking about that, you're losing your temper. When you carry a concealed weapon or you're carrying a firearm, you're upheld to a great responsibility.
Yeah.
You're supposed to remain calm, cool, and collected when you have a firearm. So,
no road raging.
Yeah, no road raging. As much as I have that fantasy with the 50 BMG,
Yeah, I'm telling you. I mean, even every day that I ride around, and I've got a 44 underneath my seat that I'm licensed for. And it's just that, I see stupid stuff, and I mean, it's irritating. And, you sit there and think, well, you can't shoot them with a regular gun. So it's just like, be calm, relax. Then it's like, okay, well, I've even thought about going and getting a paintball gun. That way, if they sit there and they cut out in front of you, it's not doing no harm, but you're shooting a person's car. But they had that happen.
You can get a whole lot of trouble for that. It's not up to the public to determine if that firearm is real or not.
Yeah, well, they actually had an incident here in Tampa, I think about 5 or 6 years ago, where the kids were road raging, and they actually pulled out their paintball guns, and they shot up a car. Next thing you know, they were being charged with assault with a weapon.
Aggravated assault.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they went to jail.
Yeah.
And, it's just like, really? Over a paintball? It's like, well, so much for that idea.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it on the other side, and I do want to kind of visit two sides of that. On the other side, can you imagine that person staring down a barrel of a firearm that they have no idea if it's real or not?
Oh, yeah. First thing they're going to do, they're going to panic, slam on brakes or something to that effect.
Or what if they decided to pull their firearm? It wasn't up to them to decide if it was real
or
not.
And it was real.
Yeah, right?
Guy pulls out a Barrett in his front seat. Look, I got a 50 caliber. I'm going to shoot you and the 100 neighbors down the street.
Yeah. So, wow, So you never use it to gain leverage in an argument. It really is. It's your confidence piece. It helps you remain calm. That's what I use it for. Is to because I'll try never to put myself into those positions, like going to EBOR at 2:00 in the morning. You're never going to find me there. I'm usually in bed by 9.
Yeah. Well, and that's the sad thing. It all comes back to basically good parenting. Good. Your upbringing as far as gun usage. What are your do's and your don'ts? That guns are there and that when they, you can use them for hunting, you can use them for sport, all that kind of stuff. But if you're trained right and everything, they're not meant to shoot people at no instance. Now, if somebody comes in your house, there was an incident I heard this week. It was a 12-year-old who was taught by his family, to go out. He went hunting and stuff like that. Somebody broke into his house while his family was there. He got the gun and he shot him. And supposedly what I've heard so far that it is considered a justified shooting because of the fact that, it was a castle law.
No, the castle doctrine.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, hey, good for the 12-year-old because, it's just like he had the right teaching of that gun. And,
how to handle it. Yes.
Yep. And, hey, he just saved his whole family's life.
Wow. Wow. I got major goosebumps from that right now. It's huge goosebumps. Wow. So, Nolan had just let us know we had about 5 minutes left in our show. Man, does the time get away with me on this? And actually, according to this, it says we got 1 minute left.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to let people know that if you ever wanted to do or host a radio show, that it is possible to do. Because if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Oh, God, especially me, too.
And currently right now we're reading some kind of long, drawn-out stuff on Class 3, but it was just something I wanted to address and get out there, and then we'll get back into more fun stuff. But if you wanted to do or host a radio show, you just need to call Nolan at talkwad.com. And the phone number for that call-in number is 727-493-2055. And then you got to check out Gerald's show, Voice of America, coming up.
6:30 to 7:30.
From 6:30 to 7:30. So it's a little bit of guns and politics involved there.
Yeah, I've actually got a guest calling in, supposedly, that he's one of the representatives for presidential candidate Gary Johnson. So it should be pretty interesting.
Oh, awesome. And then later on, I want you guys to also check out some other really cool shows out there. The host of those shows are Frank and Judy. So from 6 to 7, it's called Mystery Solved. And then from 7:30 to 8:30, The Music Match. And then from 8:30 to 9:30, Instant Emotional Help with Frank and Judy. So,
sounds like a lot of things a lot of politicians need.
Yeah, right? So let's get it all together here. So I want you guys to support our Second Amendment rights, learn your firearm safety, and have a great night.
Yep. Take care.
No matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause.